Welcome and happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Yeah, happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I am your co-host, Trey Holiday, and you guys know we do this as a team. Let's go ahead and get into the why. What's up, Big O? Happy Wednesday, my friend.
Happy Wednesday, Trey Holiday, and what's turned out to be a real big news week again.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, want to welcome everybody to the Morning Update Show and remind you this is a great opportunity right now to tag and share the stream. Go ahead and share the Morning Update Show with people that you feel could appreciate culturally relevant news and information emanating here from the Emerald City. We got a great lineup for you today. We've got King County Director of Elections, Julie Wise. I see that Julie's already back there in the green room, ready to tell us about a program they have over there at King County Elections, trying to get more people involved in the process. We also have Marcus Harrison Green, the South Seattle Emerald, who's going to be joining us, and Marcus is going to be talking about kinship caretakers. That's when Big Mama and them are taking care of a child and the problems that they're having trying to access resources. We're going to go through a few headlines here real quick before we get to Director Wise of King County Elections. This is big news happening right now. Lumen Field Event Center opens Saturday. It's huge COVID-19 vaccination clinic. And here's how it works. This is by David Gutman over there at the Seattle Times. And basically the event center there, I think, what we used to call it back in the day, the WAMU Center.
Yeah, the WAMU.
That's how you know you old school. Like WAMU don't even exist no more.
It's not.
So basically they're opening up a mass vaccination site there at right there at Lumen Field at the event center. And initially, they're saying that they're going to be able to do a few thousand. It's going to start on Saturday, supply 2,100 people the first day. They look to go up to 4,000 to 5,000 doses of vaccine a week. And ultimately, once more vaccine becomes readily available, hundreds of millions of doses are expected nationwide. And they said they'll be able to vaccinate 22,000 people a day. And so in the last hour, Mayor Durkin, County Executive Constantine, and all these other people just had a press conference over at Lumen Field. So this is big news at a very big space to be able to give vaccinations.
Yeah, a lot of these vaccination clinics have been happening in open fields, in parks, going into large parking lots. I mean, they want to be able to set up their tents, set up their vans. They have these trucks that they have the supplies on. So Lumen Field is a great space for this. Oh, yeah,
it is. All right, moving along. An announcement kind of leaked out yesterday on Twitter. Somebody was on the I think the Democracy Dollar website, and they saw that Nikita Oliver's name was on there. So the news kind of came out last night. Nikita Oliver officially announced that they are running for District 9. That's the seat currently held by Council President Lorena Gonzalez. That's a citywide seat. Here's the video that Nikita Oliver released.
Pay homage to the Duwamish, Suquamish, and the tribes upon whose lands and waterways we traverse. I cannot claim this land, but here I find home, so I pay real rent. A rising tide may lift all boats, but we ain't all got boats to catch the ride. So we fight, not to get swept away by the rip tides. We demand repair and reparations, native sovereignty and black liberation. Together, all oppressed peoples, we change our situation, letting go of all that weighs us down, that we might fly beyond prisons and police. No more loved ones living on the streets. We stop in all the sweeps. People over profit becomes our beliefs. Everyone's essential. Good food, clean water is always in reach. Health is wealth and everyone deserves it. When we sow better, then better is what we reap. And we will write the story of how the I became we, the we became free, and how it came to be this Emerald City by the sea.
All right, so Nikita's campaign, they put out a press release this morning when they made the announcement. I didn't see a direct quote from Nikita. So I reached out to Nikita Oliver this morning and I asked them why they are running for District 9. And what we got here is I'm running for the Seattle City Council position 9 because tumultuous times need transformational leadership to guide Seattle through a just recovery from COVID-19 and support the ongoing movements for economic justice, climate justice, gender justice, indigenous sovereignty, and Black liberation. And the last part here, which didn't fit on the slide, is I will be humbled to represent the people of Seattle in City Council Position 9. And before I hand it over to you, Nikita Oliver is actually going to be here in studio on Monday.
Oh, that is awesome. I mean, I think, I heard our director and big producer at large, Nikki Barron, say it best. One of the dopest videos out there for folks that are running. And I think as we kept saying, we're going to see, these council seats, these citywide seats opening up. It's a great shout out to somebody who's really connected to a lot of reform transformation initiatives on the ground and been doing work for many years. So, I'm excited that they'll be here on Monday.
Tell us how you really feel, Trey.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, we talked about a good race, and as people start to put their name in the bid for, either it's mayor or these citywide seats, I think that we do need some real diversity.
A few things. One, there's definitely, this is the year, people of color, we talked about it. I need to reach out and see, this might be more people of color, and especially Black people, running for public office here ever. And Nikita is running against a Black woman, Breonna Thomas, who's also there. D9 works in Gonzalez's office. But I was saying a week ago that some of these citywide races are really going to be the races. I really feel that across the city, people are more willing to take a risk on some of the city council seats. But for mayor, I think people are going to take a very measured. It's going to be real measured as to who they're actually going to vote for. I think that people have more willingness on these citywide seats. So we'll see what happens. I mean, one thing about Nikita Oliver is, she's very clear in her position. She's an abolitionist. She has some very specific ideas of what she believes in and everything else, which also means that there's no ambiguity as well. So, but it'll be interesting. We have Nikita Oliver here on Monday. We're going to have a discussion. We'll probably take the majority of the show. Just like all other candidates that have been running for mayor and city council, the majority of them have made their way here through the Morning Update show. And if you haven't made your way here and you're running for a city office, you're more than welcome here on the Morning Update show. Real quick, something that came out yesterday at the city council meeting. This is where HSD, Human Services Department, made their presentation to the city council on that $10 million that was in proviso from last year. Talked about how Human Services would take that $10 million and be able to provide services, public services. And so they did a presentation yesterday, and we're going to talk more about that tomorrow with Kevin Schofield. Chief Diaz also made a presentation talking about the current state of policing. But Deputy Mayor Tiffany Washington had some real interesting comments that caught a lot of people's ears yesterday. This is just the audio. The Deputy Mayor's camera wasn't on when she made these comments, but I want to play this.
My older brother, Michael, spent most of his life in prison. I remember watching him on multiple occasions being thrown down by the police, crying and asking for help. This early introduction to police caused me to grow up with a negative image of who they are and how they treat people. Unfortunately, my brother was shot and died at Harborview Hospital over 10 years ago. Sorry. With this history in mind, please know that I care deeply about this subject matter and agree that it is necessary to pour resources into communities of color to start repairing the harm done. With that said, the budget adds this year are only the beginning. We will not see significant changes for decades as the community immune system is strengthened. What this funding will not do is result in instant community safety. You will see this theme reflected in the community engagement conducted by HSD. No one is saying that they believe that they can replace a police function. What they are saying is that they believe they have an important role in ensuring that their communities are safe and thriving. Black people were enslaved for over 400 years, and we cannot be expected to get better in a year or two, as there is a lot of repair needed. Reducing the police budget to invest in communities this year will not result in immediate change. I have to say that again. When I call the police for help, and I'm a Black woman, I have an expectation that someone will come to assist me in a reasonable amount of time. This is not our current reality in the city right now. As you will see in the presentation that you have next by SPD, our citizens aren't feeling safe and supported. Our police force is short-staffed, and that has impacted their ability to respond. Yes, the institution of policing was created to keep white people in power. It needs to be rebuilt, But in the interim, as public servants, we are responsible to ensure that all Seattle residents feel safe and supported. Let us invest in communities of color for the long term, address institutional racism and white supremacy within SPD, and let us do this apart from political grandstanding. This is the commitment that I and the mayor have, and hope you will join us. Thank you. I'll pass it over to Director Howell.
All right, Deputy Mayor Tiffany Washington yesterday at the City Council meeting, and a real interesting perspective. Someone who clearly works in the mayor's office as deputy mayor, but talked about her lived experience, about her brother's interaction with the police, how her brother was murdered, her feeling of safety as a Black woman dealing with police here, but also said that what she feels is there's no instant fix, but that this process of fixing the system, so to speak, is going to take some time. And she also called out the history of policing and was real clear about that. I mean, it was real different kind of messaging coming out of the executive branch.
Yeah, and this is another reason why I think diversity is so key at these levels, because Tiffany was able to bring in her lived experience, and oftentimes having a wide range of folks who come from different perspectives is what really brings some real breadth, I think, and width to the city council and the ways that they approach certain things. And I'm glad that Tiffany was able to express, herself, her perspective, her opinions even on this, and also seeing that, the mayor is in agreement with, hey, this needs to be a long-standing ways of dealing with this. It's not an instant fix. Many people have been saying that kind of same stuff on the ground. So I love hearing her be able to say that from, the level that she sits at.
Yeah. All right. So we're getting ready to take a break right now. When we come back, up next, we have Julie Wise, Director of King County Elections, talking about all the good stuff that's going on there. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us. Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers, and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury.
I'm Trey Holiday.
Trey Holiday.
Hey.
It's on and popping. You're always so coordinated. They always give so much love in the comments too. I think that my wardrobe is just so predictable.
You know what it is.
You always come out here looking good. All right, so King County elections. People really like King County elections.
I mean, they're thorough.
They stay on top of it. I had an opportunity last year before the elections to talk to Julie Wise twice. Once about the election process, and the other one was about the safety of the lock boxes and everything else. And I see that they have a new initiative there talking about want to run for office but don't know where to start. They got this voter education fund. Nikki, can you please bring in Julie Wise? Good morning, Director Wise.
Hi.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. How about you both?
Fantastic,
Doing
fantastic. Well. So tell us all about it. What's going on down there at King County Elections?
I'm thrilled that we're once again going to offer candidate workshops. These are really about demystifying running for office. I've run for office, and I know it can be a little bit scary, right? And so what we're trying to do here is really break down the process, that technical process of running for office, We're going to do this with the Washington State Public Disclosure Commission, so we can answer all those questions about finance, about timelines, what you need to fill out, and when. We really want to see people running for office, and we don't want there to be a barrier of a lack of information around the technical aspects of running. So we're going to do virtual this year for obvious reasons through March and April to provide all the information, answer any questions. This is really for anyone in the public, anyone interested in running for office, working on a campaign, certain that they're going to run for office. Everyone's welcome to these events.
Right. And what kind of response, like what prompted this? Are you guys finding that you feel that there's not enough people running for office, or there's not enough informed people, or a barrier to run into office is because people don't have the proper information?
We know, I hear it each election, that one of the key reasons why people don't vote in local elections is because they don't see candidates on the ballots that look like them or represent their community. So at King County elections, we recognize the disgraceful history of voter suppression that continues to disproportionately affect Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. And so not only do we want to encourage communities of color to vote, but we want to encourage communities of color to run, because giving everyone a vote and a voice is really fundamental and cornerstone to our democracy. So, we really want to help provide that information. I know that it can be a little daunting. It can be a little bit scary to run for office. And so we're here to support individuals that are interested in running for office. These workshops are a great place to start. Again, we're going to have several of them through March and April, because starting May 17th, that is candidate filing, where we have over 330 offices that are open for election this year. So we're encouraging people to come by to those, be able to have their questions answered. And of course, we've got a whole host of materials and information on our website as well.
Well, this is really a great way to engage the public in, creating more and more diverse candidates. My question to you are these workshops comprehensive? So does a person have to come to one? Is it a series of workshops they need to attend in order to get all the information? How does it actually play out for the person who wants to join or participate?
Fabulous question. You just need to come to one. So it's just going to be, each one is going to be the exact same material, again, where we're going to walk through the timeline, the important critical deadlines that are legally required to meet to be able to run for office. So you only need to go to one of them. We're going to host 4 of them through March and April. And then we're going to put those videos up onto our website and on our social media as well, so that if you're not able to attend, you can still watch the video and get all that information. And if you can't attend one of them virtually, we are always here to answer any questions. You can simply call 296-VOTE, VOTE, and we are here to answer your questions. Again, we've got a lot of materials on our website, but we're here to help people, encourage people to, get the courage to run for office. We really want to see, this is the great year to do it, right? Our odd year here in Washington State is those local races. We're talking about school board members, fire commissioners, city council, mayor. This is a really great opportunity, if you've been interested in running for office, to do it.
Right. And you spoke about voter suppression. And it's good to hear you acknowledge that, because it's a real thing. We talked about yesterday, 33 states across the country are actually looking to make voting more difficult, although the last election was deemed free and fair by the administration at that time. Can you talk about some of the things that King County does to ensure that people are able to vote, like basically the opposite of suppression? What's going on here in King County?
I'm really proud of the work that we've been doing here in King County. When I first got elected, we only had 10 ballot drop boxes. We now have 73 ballot drop boxes across King County. We have prepaid postage, so you can return your ballot either method without having to worry about a stamp. We're providing more election materials in different languages for voters. we're also doing something that's really near and dear to my heart, and that is investing in our community groups to do voter education and outreach. We have the first of its kind in the country, where we have a philanthropic government community organization partnership to reach out into our communities, the most underserved communities here in King County, to encourage people to get registered, to vote, and to be running for office. I don't think it's a mistake that, or a coincidence, that you see some of the highest voter turnout in the entire country right here in King County. With 87% of our voters turn out in the presidential election. We saw youth turn out in record numbers, 8% points higher than we've ever seen them before. So I think what you see is when you remove barriers, you increase access to elections. It doesn't mean that the election isn't secure and it's not accurate. It is all of those things. But I truly fundamentally believe that our democracy is at its finest when all voices are heard. So let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not put up barriers and only have one drop box per huge counties across this country. We need to make sure that everyone has access to the ballot box. And I mean that figuratively and literally, right? And so we need to be doing those efforts. I think you see that in Washington state. I think that's why we have some of the highest voter turnout. So does many vote by mail states, right? Also not a coincidence. Show up where the voter's at, where the voter wants. I believe that every one of us have the right to have our ballot wherever we want. We did, of course, vote by mail, but we also had vote centers, huge event center locations across King County to help serve our voters. And we saw 14,000 voters show up at those locations as well. So again, it's about removing barriers, working with our community. The Voter Education Fund, I got to go back there for just a second. I got to just put a call out here that we are currently accepting applications for that program. We have $950,000 to invest back into our community-based organizations to help get out the vote. So please apply, share it with community organizations that you think might be interested. And again, never hesitate to reach out to King County Elections if you have any questions about anything.
Julie, I just love your enthusiasm, and it's clear that, you're doing a role that, is so suited for you. And honestly, I'm wondering now, because as we talk about other states in this nation that really probably could take a lesson from how King County Elections has been doing this and really increasing voter registration and getting people out there to vote. Do you think there's a way to be able to share this with other states, or is everybody very specific about their county? I just have a question about that, because it seems like you guys got a really great recipe over there, and I'm wondering how it could be replicated in other counties and other states.
Well, thank you. I take that as a huge compliment. I am a passionate election geek. I've been doing this work for 20 years, and we are trying to get out the word and that message, right? That the work that we're doing here is so vital and so important. So, I'm constantly sort of uplifting the work that the amazing team here at King County Elections, amazing partners like you all, are doing to get out the vote. So I do have to say, I'm really proud that Voter Education Fund was just recognized by the United States Elections Assistance Commission for top innovation throughout the country. So, we do get recognition for the work that we're doing here. People are taking note of the work that we're doing here. And I'd say in a large part, there are election administrators like myself across the country that want their jurisdiction to go vote by mail. It's really it's the legislators and it's the sort of the politics that get around why some would be interested in not having all voices heard. I think we're seeing in this administration, I think we're going to continue to see where someone like Amber McReynolds, right, from Denver, Colorado, is now on the United States Postal Task Force. This is someone who's run vote by mail elections and knows how important it is. I think we're going to see more and more around, I hope, national rules and laws about how we're going to administer elections and what we're not going to do, right? By having limited ballot drop boxes or purging voters from the rolls. I really hope that I can continue to do this work here, prove and show that you can run secure and accurate and accessible elections all at the same time. And I'm going to continue to fight to get that word out, but we are getting recognized. And before COVID, we had so many jurisdictions coming right here to King County Elections to look at the facility, see what we're doing here, and learn from us. And we saw several states that came here, learned from us, go and do vote by mail. You know, we've seen Utah, Colorado, Alaska, Hawaii, California that are following suit. So I think and I hope that we just see more and more spread of accessible elections in this country.
Wow. All right, King County Elections Director Julie Wise. We've put the link in the comments so people can go through the comments and they can click onto that. And yeah, it's always, I think that one of the biggest reasons King County Elections is so successful year after year is the effort and the passion that you put in it. And it's contagious to the staff over there at King County Elections. And feel free to drop in and update us anytime, okay?
Awesome, will do. Thank you so much for having me. It's always great to be with you.
All right.
Thank you. Congratulations too on the national recognition. That's huge. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
All right, Julie. Man, she's always lit, for lack of a better term. Man, every time I talk to Director Wise, she's like all the way turned up.
You know what? And
passionate about elections.
You know, when you're bringing that kind of passion into the job, especially when you care about the voters of your district, you know, clearly King County is better off for all of that passion.
Yeah, and King County and elections, I mean, you heard the director. They're literally putting the money where their mouth is, trying to get more people engaged in the process. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we have Marcus Harrison Green. You hear that, Marcus? He said all three names of the South Seattle Emerald. Marcus is going to be talking about kinship caregivers. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city. I did it for the love. I did it for the people. I did it for us. Back on this rap-ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
Cheap, by the way. Welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Before we move forward, I want to take this opportunity to say thank you very much to all you guys who support Converge Media. You literally keep us on the air. Big shout out to the $5 Army. We see you. If you feel so inclined, you can visit whereweconverge.org/donate. Trey Holiday, I was on the Seattle Times the other day, minding my business as usual, and I saw Marcus Harrison Green. It says they're raising grandkids with little help, and during a pandemic, can't we lend them a hand? And so reached out to Marcus. Marcus actually, you know, he does an audio version. He's like Audible or something. You can actually hear all of his calls as well.
Dope.
Yeah, it's all good. So we got Marcus Harrison Green joining us now. Please bring in Marcus.
Man.
Hey.
Trey, oh, good to see you all. I'm coming live from the Green Apple Chapel. You know, much love for you all. I'm in my palatial estate, my palatial basement from Skyway. Much love to both of you. It's been a minute.
I know, miss you, brother. Glad you could be joining us today.
It's good. It's good to see you, Marcus. You know, I mean, the natural light is working for you too.
I mean, I tried, man. I gotta get that, you know, that the darkness sizzling, as they say. It's sizzling today. So
there's a lot of melanin on the screen right now.
It's rich. It's rich melanin. So yeah.
There it is. All right. So Marcus, you wrote this column, and it got it was very widely amplified right there in the Seattle Times. And so it's a great platform for people to actually understand what's going on. So kinship caregivers, tell us all about it and tell us what the issues are.
Yeah, man. So kinship caregivers is basically the sociological term for grandmothers or other relatives who are raising their grandchildren. And the reason that they're raising their grandchildren is because the biological parent is, not in the picture. Majority of the time, it's because either that the biological parent is on drugs or something of that nature, and so the grandparent has had to step in. There are over 2.7 million officially, the official count is of kinship caregivers in the United States. In the state of Washington, there's at least 51,000. Though they think that's an undercount. It could be as many as 70 or 80,000 people grandparents who are actually raising their grandkids. The reason that we don't know that is because a lot of them don't want anything to do with their child welfare system here, in the state. A lot of them feel that, historically, as we know, Child Protective Services has been a destroyer of Black families. I'll give you an example. There was one kinship caregiver. She was a grandmother who was raising her grandchild. The grandchild she had raised her grandchild from essentially a birth to 12 years old. At 12 years old, she was like, I need some additional finances, and in order to get additional finances, she went into the foster care system. So she became a foster care parent. Literally 6 months after becoming a foster care parent, there was an incident where the grandmother, gave a spanking to her grandchild. Child Protective Services came in, took away the child from the grandmother. And not only did they take away her grandchild, but they placed her with a family who went to the same church as the grandmother. And so, imagine that from the grandmother. You're seeing this child that you've raised from, birth to 12 years old every single Sunday in church. And yet, right, you can't necessarily have, any real contact with this person, with your child who you've raised. I mean, that does psychological damage to you, does psychological damage to the child. And then it also just, quite frankly, just illuminates the fact that we have a two-tiered child welfare system in this state. And I mean, we have it across the country, but specifically definitely in Washington, where you have a foster care system, which is predominantly white families, versus this sort of informal system where you have largely grandmothers, largely folks of color, specifically largely Black people, who are raising their grandchildren without, with basically no financial resources. If you are a foster care parent for 2 children, you can expect to get at least $1,600 a month to raise those 2 children. Now, if you are a kinship caregiver, meaning you are not licensed with the foster care system, you're just a grandmother who is just, raising your grandchildren on your own, the most that you'd be able to get for those 2 children is $459 a month to raise 2 children. It's like a kinship caregiver told me, my kids can eat that in a week. And yet you expect me to raise 2 children off of that? Trey, I know you're a proud parent. I know you're a proud parent. Hell, I got a pending paternity test. There ain't no way that we could, raise 2 children off of $459. That's just ridiculous. And so, this is something that's been going on for forever. There is some newfound awareness around, support for kinship caregivers. And to be real with you, to just be straight blunt with you, the only reason that many people think that is because with the opiate, crisis affecting so many white families, right? You have more white people who are needing to grandmothers and so forth, and grandparents who are raising grandchildren. And so now it's become this child care crisis, right? How many times, though, like I was talking to LaShawna Pittman, wonderful professor at the University of Washington, who studies grandparents who raise their grandchildren. It's like she was saying, when it was the 80s and 90s and the crack epidemic had really hurt the Black community, and it was creating all these kinship caregivers, all these grandmothers who were raising their grandkids, did they get any sympathy? Right? They were called, their kids were called crack babies. Whereas like now, we have this asymmetrical compassion, right? We don't call white kids who are raised by their grandchildren, in increasing numbers, we don't call those oxytots, right? And nor should we, but at the very least, it's like, why now are we getting, why now is there this compassion for children and families who are, grandparents who are raising their grandchildren, when, this has been going on in the Black community, since time immemorial almost.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus, you really make some great points there. And I think one of the things that I really appreciated about the article you wrote, thanks for going so in depth and also bringing a real touch of anecdotal, but storytelling, that personal narrative is so important for folks to understand this. I personally watched my grandmother raise two different sets of children, and it was because of, their parents were around, but not enough for them to actually raise their children. And so my grandmother did this. She was definitely a kinship care person and did that two separate times with different children, her different children, sets of children. So I really come from this and being raised in the same household as my grandmother, my cousins. And then when she was doing the other two kids, she came into our household. And my mom was taking care kind of her mom as she was taking care of these two. So there's a lot of different nuance that oftentimes is not captured. And one of the things I really want to ask you is through your research, because you mentioned the spanking there, and that is just a horrific story. But oftentimes they don't understand we have culturally relevant ways that we bring into our child care, that we bring into our nurturing, that oftentimes is looked at by the government officials or CPS as abuse or things like that, when really we didn't do timeouts necessarily. I got my butt spanked. That was just what it was. So I wonder if this new legislation is taking some of that cultural responsive approach into play here.
Yeah, well, as somebody who stayed getting their ass whooped by my parents, I thank you for bringing that up. That's actually one of the things that I brought up with Frank Ardway. He is the chief of staff for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, and it's the newest department in Washington State, which is tasked essentially with the welfare of children in the state. And so he said that what they've been trying to do now is they're realizing that, when they used to sort of gauge, whether a child should be with a family and including a relative, they were bringing very much, this sort of white middle class suburban standards to how they would, would sort of, gauge whether a child should have been with, a child should have properly been, placed with the family. When I was talking to Ollie Reeves, for instance, she was the kinship caregiver who I featured in the story. She's 76 years old. She's raising two grandkids, Montre, who's 14, Destiny, who's 10. She originally, because she knew she needed the money, right, in terms of raising them. So she wanted to go into the foster care system. She said that initially when she went in there, they were nitpicking her home. They were nitpicking, the fact that it was, quote unquote, too small. They were, going through her drawers, going through everything. She just had this horrible experience to the fact where she was like, F this, I'm going to go along. I'm going to go alone. And if I have to work 3 jobs and have to deplete my savings, I would rather do that than have, this state apparatus here in the child welfare system essentially, have full oversight over my household and be able to take away my children whenever they did, because one, they just do not understand me, right? They do not understand my culture. They do not understand how we raise our children. They do not understand the nuances and complexities of humanity, right? I mean, they don't treat me like a human being. And I can't tell you, like, she's not the only one. There are so many other folks who have said, I'm just going to go it alone. I don't want to deal with the state whatsoever, and even though they need the money, I'll tell you another anecdote that I didn't put into the story because I didn't have just because of my word count. But there was a grandmother who was, very staunchly Catholic, right? And so she, very against abortion. And her 15-year-old ended up getting pregnant. The 15-year-old, the granddaughter who she was raising, ended up getting pregnant by a 22-year-old. Now, she ended up having to have, take the 15-year-old to have an abortion. And it was just a purely, and whether you pro-choice, pro-life, it's the fact that you had to make that decision as an economic decision because you're not supported by, by the state that is supposed to, be all about child welfare. I mean, that just says a lot about how we treat children and how we, again, have this sort of dual system that essentially privileges some people who want to have, who are comfortable with state oversight. And let's be honest with you. I mean, again, the numbers bear out. It's disproportionately white people who are okay with that versus folks of color and Black people who, they've had horrible experiences with the state coming into their households. And so they go ahead and bypass that.
I think it also goes to such a deeper issue. And we talk about this oftentimes in terms of the police or maybe elected officials, but trust essentially in the Black community with regard to any form almost of government has just been eroded. And again, it's like you can't put a Band-Aid on something and think that that's going to suffice. Ultimately, there needs to be a real direct way of folks being able to recognize and respect and appreciate the diverse cultures that really make up America. So I think that you're absolutely right here, Marcus, to say that, when we see a lot of these lifting of certain things, now it's white grandmothers and grandfathers taking care of their grandbabies due to the opioid crisis. Same thing that we were saying last week around the drug, these new drug liftings, where you're not going to be held responsible necessarily if you're just in possession. But I think that it's clear to point those things out. What can people do at this point to try to support these new legislative measures that are going to bring real respect and authority toward these kinship relationships that, many Black grandmothers and grandfathers really see themselves in?
Well, the immediate thing people can do is support Senate Bill 5151. It just recently passed the Senate. It's now in the House to be voted on. There will be a public hearing on it on March 11th. So I believe that's Thursday, tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So that people can voice their approval of it. Essentially, what 5151 does, it creates a child-only foster license for a kinship caregiver. So let's say that in the case of somebody like Ollie Reeves, who is raising her 2 grandchildren, she would get a license that essentially licensed her to be a foster parent officially for just those 2 children. So unlike other foster parents, she wouldn't have to open up her house to other kids. She would just specifically, have those 2. The importance of being licensed is that then allows her to have access and to be eligible for that higher amount that foster care parents get, as opposed to kinship caregivers. So, I mean, that would be the immediate thing. I think for me, though, to be honest with you, there are still a lot of kinship caregivers who, even with that license pass, if it does pass, they still don't want to mess with the state, right? I mean, because it's still like, I still don't trust you. So I think the advocacy would be, the main advocacy, I think, would still be to talk to our legislators and get parity with kinship caregivers. And I'll say it like this: Washington State is one of only 4 states in the entire country that does not have parity between what they give to kinship caregivers versus what they give to foster parents. And if we're quote unquote this progressive state who looks after and takes care of our own.
In the union, they just said yesterday that we're the best state in America 2 years in a row.
I would like to see the metric, but anyhow, I guess it depends on who you ask. If you're a 76-year-old raising 2 children, in your home alone with yourself over in South Seattle, you probably wouldn't think that.
There's room for improvement, definitely. Marcus, thank you so much for being here, for bringing light to this issue. And really, thank you for diving deep in your article there in the Seattle Times. Great work, my friend. I'm glad you could bring it to light right here on our set.
Much love to you both. Always a pleasure to be here. Hope we can do it again soon.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Marcus.
Bye. Bye. Wow. I mean, that's a lot. And we know a lot of people on our blocks, man. I know we grew up with folks that, hey, it was their grandmama raising them. And you may not have known. You may have thought that was their mom the whole time, just like maybe they had an older mom. But we grew up with a lot of people being raised by their grandparents.
Yeah. I mean, these are these things where it's like you're glad that it's happening. But, when we needed help, no one was listening. And I mean, he hit it right on the head. Back in the day, it was like, oh, there's some crack babies you're over there raising. Now that these things are impacting white people, I mean, just got to be honest that we see so many changes that are happening, so many changes in laws, so many changes in social services, so many changes in access to services, to where, years ago, the answer for the Black community was just basically lock everybody up. And now we see these services. It's good to see these things occurring. And we'll see what happens with this kinship caregiver.
Yeah, there we go. Something to follow.
All right, we're going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we've got another segment for my discussion with the people up there, Seattle Vocational Institute, SVI. You're watching the Morning Update Show.
I did it for the city, I did it for the love, I did it for the people, I did it for us. Back on this rap ish, I ain't even broke a sweat, homie, this practice. Pondering my next move, staring at my track list, hope I ain't miss my window. Praying like a Baptist, Seattle's own, tired of this Game of Thrones. They made a list of the best rappers and guess who wasn't on? While the disrespect continues, I'm steady packing these venues.
Converge Media produces culturally relevant content for Black and urban audiences. Our coverage is raw, transparent, and objective, praised by community leaders, government officials, and residents. Support Converge Media today via Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal at Converge Media.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Got another segment here from the conversation that I had up at Seattle Vocational Institute and the CDC PDA and their efforts there to be able to find the funds. $26 million is required there to bring SBI back up to code for it to be an habitable, useful building. Haven't been able to use the building in going on 2 years now. And this conversation today, I talked to John Collins III, who's now a labor union organizer, but he tells a story, early on, I guess you would call it a troubled youth. And he found his way and his direction there while he was at SBI, went into one of the construction apprenticeship programs, and now he's a labor leader.
When I was in high school, I did an internship. So I went to a apprenticeship for the labor's union. This was the only location where vocational, where you can take a 6-month or a 9-month course. So like all my connections and everything started right here. And this is, historically known as a place where you can come and get training to start a career and actually excel in life. It's a starter kit to any career that you wanted to get into. Even from the beginning, because they have the GED classes. And then not only just getting your GED, you can go upstairs and they also had a daycare. You can get all the different services that you need in one location.
How do you think the community has been impacted with, I guess you would say, the decline of SBI?
Well, it impacted the community in a major way, the simple fact that a lot of folks can't afford to live in this area without some type of assistance or housing. So now you want to get certain type of training, you're going to have to go to North Seattle, you're going to have to go downtown Seattle, or you're going to have to go to a whole new city.
What's your vision of what SBI can be with proper investment?
With proper investment, I see SBI as a place of business where small business and entrepreneurs can come in and actually have Black and minority businesses and woman-owned businesses right here. If there was an individual who could invest, they can impact a lot of lives investing right here, investing back into a community that was, has been devastated and has been taken. This SBI project is a collaboration with a committee, some really strong-minded individuals, like-minded individuals, and we're pushing hard. We're pushing hard for what's right.
John Collins III right there. SBI has a lot of success stories.
Yeah, and John Collins, just a solid brother. I mean, the fact that his own personal story has ties to SBI is no real surprise for me. He's been, really an advocate as somebody in the community that really took, all right, let me learn something and let me bring that knowledge back to the community. And I really appreciate that. I think one of the things he really said there that struck me reminds me of the design cipher that we had around SBI, bringing the community in to actually imagine what that space could be. And he's absolutely right in terms of bringing in Black-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, and allowing that to be a real hub for folks. And also thinking about the ways that we can connect a lot of programming to youth, what it is they love, fashion, music, creating TV shows and things like that. I mean, for that design cipher, he's talking about it right there. It's absolutely on point.
Yeah, definitely. Tomorrow, it's my conversation with Gerald Bradford up there at SBI. So it's been this whole week, I think, has been a good, insightful look directly from people impacted by Seattle Vocational Institute. And we'll see what happens. $26 million. It's a heavy lift, but these guys are committed to try to find that money.
That's right. And he's right, too. Look, if you're just a private investor who's like, man, I am ready to make sure that my investment is going to have a major impact in the community, SBI is a great place to start.
All right, good stuff. All right, we're getting ready to get out of here. A few programming notes tonight at 6:15. The coronavirus update show, myself and producer Nikki Barron. We already see that at the top of the hour here, some really big news, what's going on over there at Lumen Field with them going to make that a vaccination center. I mean, guys are trying to hurry up and get this vaccine out. Have you made a decision yet?
Yeah. Next.
Okay, next. We'll keep it moving.
I haven't made a decision yet.
In that case, Trey Holiday, any last words before we get out of here?
Man, I'm just saying, I got to say, I'm enjoying these peaks of sun. Me and some of the Converge crew, Eric, Calligraphy, and Jake, we got to get out there and hit the market up yesterday. So it was just very nice. I just am encouraging people. A lot of folks been cooped up in their homes with COVID. Man, get out while the sun is out there. Enjoy a nice brisk walk. You know what I mean? It's awesome. I'm here for it. Enjoy a walk.
I agree. Reminder tomorrow as well. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. We're joined by Julia Jesse and Mike Davis for another episode of Clapback Culture. And also tomorrow during the morning update show, I think we'll have Besa. There's another Rewind with Besa that's airing this Saturday. I think that's about it. So I will remind you to please go forward in your purpose, go forward in your humanity. And until tomorrow at 11 a.m., peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day.